Can you hear me? Now you can. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if we're nothing, we're punctual. It's 1800 hours. My colleagues have joined us. We are going to try to give you some quality family time this evening. And with that, I'd like to call is long. Well, there's a few people.
Recording in progress.
We're missing our board clerk, and she's got some activities that got to happen right away. So, any idea, Chief, where she may have gone? It's perfectly fine for us to. She's taking some. All right. Well, let's at least continue on. Want to call this meeting to order. We'll call the roll with Director, right? Director Weber. Director Sheets. Director Delman. Delman?
Oh, here.
Not Director Delman.
He said Elman.
No, I'm sorry. Go. Here? Director Wood?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Present.
And we've got Director Sailors is not present. Director Rice is not present. Director Costa?
Here.
So looks to me like we've got a quorum, right? By the skin of our teeth. All right, appreciate that. I'd like to go ahead and pledge to the flag, and I've asked Director Weber to assist us in that. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Director Weber. Appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in following up on this activity this evening and watching it on TV, please refer to the agenda on the Metro Cable announcement. We'll now move on to a public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the district's jurisdiction on items on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any speaker forms?
We have no speaker forms, and Art will check with the online community and see if we have any.
Attendees, if anybody would like to address the board, please raise your hand. I'll give the opportunity to speak. No response.
Thank you, Art. Appreciate that. We'll now move on to consent agenda. We have 2 items on consent. I'm assuming my colleagues have read that. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the consent calendar.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
Yes. Director Weber?
Aye.
Director Sheets? President Gould?
Aye.
Director Wood?
Aye.
Director Costa?
Aye.
And Director Clark?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We'll now move on to presentation items. We have one presentation item. It's Government Affairs Winter Update. And our Director of Government Affairs, Mr. McDonald, will give us an update. Oh, there's a lot more letters there. I've got it in very small print. It's not McDonald. Kyle, will you pronounce your last name?
No, it's McDonald. You got
Good.
it. You got it.
I just wanted to see if you remembered. Go.
Thank you, President Gould.
You're welcome.
Directors, Chief House, thank you again for the opportunity to be here today. Before I jump into the update itself, I want to start with a slide.
I'm assuming it's a different slide than this one?
It is
okay.
a different one. It's a little bit more detailed.
Okay.
There we go. All right. Now I'd like to begin with a slide that I know you all are very familiar with. This is the strategic planning process and framework. Now, I wanted to start with this slide because it does a good job of solidifying the why I'm doing what I'm doing, how I'm doing what I'm doing, and what we're ultimately trying to do with what I'm doing. Specifically, the external engagement piece. You see down there at the bottom, the legislative priorities and advocacy plan. Now, in fall, I provide you with an update or an overview of government affairs specific to Metro Fire. I got into definitions, spoke to the essentials of effective advocacy, as well as spoke to organizational roles as I see them. I also spoke at that time of pledging to come before you more regularly, provide updates specific to legislation, policy, all of that. Me being here before you today is that first step towards that, And if you'll have me, I'd love to keep coming back at least once a quarter and provide periodic updates in addition to any other more urgent matters by email and similar methods if needed. Now, at that time, I also spoke to some next steps, specifically increased awareness, increased collaboration, and increased engagement. Now, specific to these pieces, I want to get a little bit further into them and speak to increased awareness. This is proactively flagging critical issues within our agency, or legislatively that might affect our agency, seeking feedback, such as subject matter experts within our agency, as well as reporting out to our folks what's going on policy-wise, speaking to legislation. Now, to me, communication isn't just a one-way street. It shouldn't just be me pushing information down. I very much want feedback as well, input from all of you certainly, but also folks within our agency, whether executive staff all the way down. So to me, very much going to the next stage, increased collaboration. In the fall, I spoke about how community is key. Today, I'm speaking about how collaboration is key. I love alliteration, so you'll get those periodically. It's important to not just have sustained and substantive collaboration internally, but externally as well. I'm going to use a few examples throughout this where I speak to specific things that we've done both since we last met, but also previously as well that we've started and that we've continued. In addition to that, identifying subject matter experts and engaging with them. Excuse me. Speaking to internal collaboration, this is a group that I don't have the privilege of saying I started it, but I'm able to say that I'm proud to be a part of it now. It's our core group, collaborating on related endeavors. This brings together representatives from the Office of the Fire Chief, the PIO, Community Relations, CRRD, Ops, as well as Planning and Development to talk about external engagement issues and see about strategizing on them. Another aspect of the external piece is collaborating with California Special Districts Association. I was recently named to the legislative committee there, taking over for Jeff, who has done a fantastic job there, and I'm excited to fill his shoes there. The next piece of it is increased engagement. Coordinating meet and greets, making sure that Chief House has an opportunity to meet and re-meet with our elected officials at all levels, as well as diligently following up from those meetings, making sure that the meeting is just one step and not the ending of communication with them. Really ensuring that we have a sustained presence at all levels of government, state, local, federal. Now, in the fall, I spoke to coming back and working on our state and federal priorities, or as I refer to them here, our legislative principles. These are the most pressing legislative and policy issues facing Metro Fire. Now, that's not to say that there aren't other issues or anything like that. These are just the umbrella concepts based on feedback that I've received from speaking with individuals on the board, speaking with individuals within our agency, executive staff, all of the above, over the past year. And it really boils down to a few specific areas. Grants and funding, health and wellness, policies, and training, specifically the Zinfandel First Responder Training Facility. Now, when it comes to grants and funding, to me that's ensuring a well-staffed, highly trained, and sustainable agency, supporting continued funding of grant opportunities for firefighter recruitment, first responder training, and emergency capabilities, and supporting funding opportunities for fire station construction and renovations. Again, this isn't every single grant or funding opportunity we'd like to explore and continue to support, but kind of just the umbrella, kind of the idea of what we're continuing to work on. Similarly, on health and wellness, it's standing with our first responders. It's supporting the men and women who answer the call and serve our communities, working with our state and local and federal partners on this. This is something I know I spoke about previously, in my fall presentation. This topic in particular, it's not just professional, it's personal as well. It's something that I'm very, very passionate about working on. Now, speaking to policies, this is working towards public safety solutions to serve our entire community, advocating for legislation and rulemaking to tackle wall time issues. AB 40, a great example of that, something that I'm going to touch upon a little bit later as well. It's supporting funding streams for ambulance services and paramedic recruitment, as well as supporting efforts at the federal level to establish a universal definition of special district, which will be very important as we work on grants and funding. And the last piece, training in the Zinfandel First Responder Training Facility. It's committing the resources for the future. It's supporting regionally important investments into first responder training and education and ensuring that these critical funds remain available to Metro Fire for regional impact. Now, looking ahead to the next several weeks here, and if there's a question, I'd be happy to pause at that, but looking ahead to the next several weeks and next several months at the state and federal level, January 31st, last day for each house to pass bills introduced the previous year. February 16th is the last day for new bills to be introduced. March 21st through April 1st, spring recess. May 14th, governor's budget revised deadline. June 15th, California budget deadline. On the federal side, since I submitted this last Friday, there's actually been an update on this. The 2 continuing resolutions have actually been extended. We are on our 3rd continuing resolution, both of which are set to expire March 1st and March 8th. Smack dab between that, President Biden will be delivering his State of the Union address March 25th through April 5th, spring recess, and then April 13th through April 17th, Capital 2024. I know a few of you will be attending that. Very much looking forward to joining you out in Washington, D.C. again. All right, so where do we go from here? The next steps. When I was here in the fall, I spoke about the seasonal approach, really taking it spring, fall, summer, winter, and making sure that we have year-round effective engagement. Right now, we are entirely on pace with our winter and spring timeline that I outlined at that time. We're in that period of thanking and reassessing and reprioritizing our issues. We're working through legislative implementation, as well as working on New Year engagement and collaboration. Now, I spoke about AB 40 earlier, and I want to raise that one again on the legislative implementation. Just because something has become law doesn't mean that it's off my radar. Very much want to make sure that when laws become when bills become laws, we're still making sure that there's an involvement in the process so that it's implemented the right way, but also making sure that if legislative fixes are needed in the future, we have a working knowledge of what's going on there. Lastly, the legislative analysis. That's defining the process of how we actually engage on specific bills. It's the next step of this. It's seeking better communication and collaboration. It's forming an internal legislative and policy team to gain insight and input from those subject matter experts that I referred to earlier, as well as identifying those who need to be involved versus informed. Now, on that point, I very much view the board as both of those, involved as well as informed. Like I said, I'd very much like to come back once a quarter, but along the way, there's certainly going to be issues, certainly going to be topics that affect you all in your districts and that affect Metro Fire, and I look forward to collaborating with you on them. And with that, open up to any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for our Director of Governmental Affairs? Sir, just one real quick thing. For those that'll be going, you mentioned cap to cap.
Yes, sir.
I think it's going to be really critical that we get a little bit further ahead of that with as far as the goals, the items, the actions, the things that are expected of the directors. So I look forward to dispersing that to my colleagues so that they have time to plan. So if you and your team can just kind of put that in your bucket, we'd like to have that information well in advance of attending DC so that it can be productive.
Absolutely. No, and to that point, not just information, but I'd love to be able to organize a briefing with the directors that are attending and make sure that we have, you know, an in-person opportunity to get on the same page and make sure we go over issues, topics, and make sure it's productive for us all.
And I think a timeline for every day will be super helpful. Like,
Yes, sir.
You know, I remember in the past, sometimes it was like herding cats, and it was a pretty hard thing to do. So thank you very much for your presentation. And any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right, we'll move on now to our action items for this evening. We have two of those. The first one is adopt a resolution, California Senate Bill 1205, mandatory inspections and compliance reporting. Assistant Chief Barbie Law, nope, not that. That's not happening. Go.
President Gould, Directors, Chief House, my name is Amy Nygren. I'm the Deputy Fire Marshal in the Community Risk Reduction Division.
Oh, hold on. Somebody's going to have a seizure if this
There we
keeps
go.
up.
And I'm here to report out on our state mandated inspections for the calendar year 2023.
Thank you.
I'll give you a quick overview on Senate Bill 1205, a little bit on our inspection staffing, our state mandated inspection compliance, and then what the state mandated inspections are. What is SB 1205? SB 1205 went into effect on September 27th, 2018, and it is now codified into the Health and Safety Code. And it requires every fire agency to report their compliance with state mandated inspections to their governing authority. So, President Gould, I will answer the question ahead of time. These are state mandated inspections. They are unfunded mandates from the state that we do not receive compliance with. I remember that from last year.
Right?
It requires the governing authority to acknowledge receipt in a report. And the purpose of SB 1205 was ensure there's proper funding and staffing available and resources available for the fire prevention bureaus. A little bit on our staffing. We have 3 supervising inspectors, one that leads our code enforcement team, one that leads our new construction team, and one for training. We have 13 fire inspectors. All of our funded positions are filled. We have 7 inspector 2s, and they take care of everything with new construction, plan review, and our state mandated inspections. We also have 6 inspector 1s. Their primary roles are code enforcement and the state mandates. Currently, I have 2 inspectors that are in training. They should be done around May 1st-ish. And then one of our inspectors is currently covering the fire investigations unit since June for a long-term vacancy. So right now we don't have that available within our division. We also have 3 plan intake specialists. They cover the city of Citrus Heights, Rancho Cordova, and one at our headquarters here. And they handle all of our processing of plans coming in, and then they review smaller plan reviews, usually under about 5,000 square feet. Our first state mandated inspection are Group E occupancies, so that's going to be all of our public and private schools, as well as daycares, anything that doesn't include an infant. And as you can see at the bottom there, all of those are about 385 inspections. Our Group R occupancies, those are going to be your hotels, motels, apartment complexes, anything with 3 or more units in it, as well as care facilities with more than 6 clients. And as you can see there, all of the numbers that we completed, those are about, it's 1,878. And then a high rise. So every year we have to report this separately to the State Fire Marshal's office. So a high rise isn't anything over 75 feet above fire department access. We have one, it's the Marriott Hotel here in Rancho Cordova. So we did complete that. And then within 30 days, we have to report that particular one to the State Fire Marshal's office. So for the calendar year 2023 inspection stats, we did complete 385 inspections. Those are our initial inspections, 100% compliance rate. And with our hotels, motels, all of our occupancies, we completed 1,878 initial inspections with 100% compliance rate. So this is a new slide for us this year to kind of put everything into perspective. There's a significant number of mandated inspections that require more than one inspection, so I thought it was important to show kind of what that percentage rate is. So 63% of them require a reinspection, so we're going out multiple times. So at the close of 2023, we still have 244 inspections that are outstanding. And then with our inspections, we still have 1,009 that have open violations that need to be completed. So with that, of course, additional inspections, staffing is always welcome to help assist with those. Again, we have a rock star staff. As you can see, we got 100% compliance on all of our state mandated inspections, as well as keeping up with our construction and plan review side of the house. So our staff are wonderful, and they do such a great job, and they're very hardworking. And so staff recommends the board adopt a resolution acknowledging the receipt of the report regarding the performance of annual inspections as outlined in Health and Safety Code 13146.2 and 13146.3. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's a really great presentation. I'll entertain a motion as described by staff relative to this.
I so move.
Okay, we've got a first and a second relative to that. I believe it was Director Wood.
Wood, okay. And
And I
vote?
just, before we call the roll, I just would like to mention the fact that you look at these numbers and they're overwhelming, just the size. But I think a little more concerning for me is that nearly 1,300 open cases, which are violations to the law. And I, if something goes wrong, it's going to be on us, right? It's just, the finger's going to be pointed at us for having open violations that haven't been cleared up. So I would ask my colleagues to think long and hard about our staffing matrix and where we could get some additional staff to clear those out, so that we not only maintain this 100% inspection. I know you guys have been doing that for quite a while, right? It's like finance. We get all these accolades because we do such a great job. But the thing that concerns me from a policy standpoint is we've got organizations, facilities that have violations that have not been cleared up. And to me, that puts a little bit of the onus on us to get those cleared up, and that's going to take some additional staff, because clearly your men and women are busting their hind ends. So I would just like us to start thinking, Chief, how do we effectively and efficiently get rid of these violations, get these cases taken care of, so that we don't end up being in the news because a violation went to something that caused a loss of life or something like that, because your group is doing a killer job. We're very thankful for the hard work that your men and women are doing.
Thank you. It's important to note that our staff do a lot of education when we're doing inspections.
Yeah.
And the hardest part for us is the turnover for management and maintenance crews. So they're not on the same path with us a lot of times, and things within a year have changed. So we would hope that if it was more steady, you would have more of those violations reduced and then a continual compliance rate. But we're seeing a lot of turnover, especially at apartment complexes, and with funding in schools and things like that, it just gets a little more difficult. So they try the best they can.
No, and I hope you don't take my comments as that you're not trying.
No.
I think we have to increase the amount of people that are working with you to get those violations down, because as you know, it's like I've been given a violation, but nobody's following up, and then bad things happen, and everybody else starts blaming, and we end up getting some of the blame, like, well, you violated them, but you haven't followed up, and so they didn't make any change. So with that, any other questions for this group? All right, I'll entertain a motion. We've got that. We've got a second.
and
Please
then I'll-
call the roll.
All right, Director Weber?
Aye.
Director Sheets? Aye. President Gould?
Aye.
Director Wood? Aye. Director Costa?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. All right, let's move on to our next action item. That is a parking lot lease. Nope, that is the revision of the board policy on travel and conference expense. Wow, exciting stuff right here.
Yeah, I'm bringing the heat
So
tonight.
Tool, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Chief House colleagues, and members of the public. Dave O'Toole, Chief Financial Officer. For this item, presenting the travel and conference policy. travel conference expense policy, which guides the district on acceptable uses of district funds when traveling to conferences. And the proposed change, let's see, the policy was last updated in 2016. And the changes of policy before you have to do mainly with meal payments and reimbursements for meal payments. The proposed change would limit the use of the district credit card to purchase meals while traveling and attending conferences. If adopted, travelers would purchase meals using their own funds and be reimbursed at the per diem rate. This practice is consistent with what the federal government does, what many other local agencies do as well. All other travel expenses may be paid for using a district credit card or paid by the employee and reimbursed afterwards with valid documentation. The policy has been reviewed by HR and executive staff. We've run it by Sacramento County, who of course issues our payments, and they approve the change as well. There's no fiscal impact with this policy, and so I respectfully request your consideration and approval.
And this is a policy, Mr. O'Toole, that bypassed rightfully our policy committee?
Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
There we
It went
go.
to the policy committee in
Okay.
December, I believe.
Yeah, we're good? I just didn't hear that, so I wanted to make sure that it made its way through there. All right, are there any questions for Mr. O'Toole on the conference and travel policy changes? Nice and timely for some of us that will be involved in travel and conference attending. No questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion that we adopt staff's recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Second? Bob, thank you, appreciate it.
Weber.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Weber?
Aye.
Director Sheets? President Gould?
Aye.
Director Wood?
Aye.
Director Costa?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. Appreciate that. All right, let's now move on to reports. President has no report. We'll move to Fire Chief report. Chief House.
Directors, colleagues, members of the public, good evening. We have some recruitments I'd like to talk about, 3 of them specifically. Fire engineers promotional exam for 2024. The district's accepting letters of interest for engineer promotion exam until Friday, March 29th. We're also accepting applications for firefighter paramedic. The position for 24-2 is tentatively scheduled for fall of 2024. This is going to be our second fire academy of the year. Applications for that is due on 4 p.m. on February 16th. We're also accepting applications for the position of EMS systems technician with the final filing date of February 9th by 4 p.m. I just wanted to briefly talk a bit about, again, and give a special thank you to Director Sailors and Supervisor Frost for the recognition of Terry Barnes and his 47 years of service. It was attended, well over 100 people showed up there, and I'm still getting remarks from not only Terry Barnes' family, but members of the public up there and retirees of how grateful they were to recognize Terry and how important that was for the organization. So a big special thank you to Director Sailors and Supervisor Frost, and many of you that attended also, thank you. It was a great event. This Saturday, Guns and Hoses, 50th anniversary football game is going to be kickoff at 1 p.m. Fill the Boot Drive will take place Sunrise Mall Marketplace, 8 through 11, with the Chiefs Challenge on Saturday, February 10th. That link has already been sent out, and we're collecting some money now. I heard that Folsom has already been very proactive. Congratulations to the following individuals who were selected for Member of the Year 2023, and this is just a partial list to entertain your appetite for the Gala Awards coming up. But the Members of the Year, Captain Tyler Block for suppression, Purchasing Agent Courtney Moore for professional staff, Captain Matt Salmons of Special Operations, Paramedic Diana Borsch for EMS, and CERT Coordinator Linda Ford for volunteer. That event for the awards gala is going to be February 23rd, and RSVP for that is due by February 13th. We'll have additional awardees that evening. So, February 21st at 10 a.m., the district will be holding a LODD station dedication for firefighter Dean Baker and firefighter Kevin Prince at Station 62. Please join in that event also. And then lastly, today I had the opportunity, and this is based on a whole bunch of relationships and our engagement with the community, As Kyle McDonald talked about, I was able to go down and have a lunch and meet Vice President Kamala Harris, representing Metro Fire. It was in a room of about 20 people, but I acknowledge this because us being a special district, I wanted to give a special acknowledgement for support in the motorcade. And we had a robust support requested to be there. So Chief Kylie Keeley supported that and drove that conversation. We had a medic there, an engine there, and we were the only fire agency that had TEM support there with our tactical EMS to support with the sheriff. And I believe I see Engine 54 here this evening. I think they're going to be recognized, I believe, for something different, but I wanted to acknowledge that their participation in that motorcade, maybe they're going to talk about that today. It was a great showing from Metro Fire, and a pleasure to go down there and entertain lunch and shake the hands of our Vice President. That concludes my report for this evening, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for the chief? Director Weber?
What are the numbers of the academies? How many folks do we have coming through, do you know?
For our current academy, we're at 15 right now.
15?
Correct.
And we're accepting applications? Is that what you said?
For the next academy,
Gotcha.
correct.
Thank you.
Correct. By the time we have promotions and all that, we want to be proactive and make good a management decision looking at that with onboarding our new firefighter paramedics as early as possible. With competition with our surrounding agencies, we're taking a proactive approach to get those members into our agency first. I think I talked about that, how we were doing that with Melissa Maddox in previous report outs, and we're doing that once again. So.
Good, Bob. Any other questions for the chief? All right, thank you, chief. I'm assuming Chief Mitchell, operations report.
Good assumption, sir.
You guys are messing with me tonight.
Good evening. Thank you, President Gould. Good evening, directors, Chief House, colleagues, members of the public. Adam Mitchell, operations chief. Two things for you tonight. The first one is I get to stand up here and stand before you usually and talk about the great work that our men and women do out there in the field responding to emergencies. Again, as the chief so eloquently identified, we do have an engine company here that will come up here in a few minutes and talk about their excitement for today under Chief Keeley's leadership. But what I get to do is recognize another member of our district. Every once in a while, an organization outside of our own recognizes one of our members within our organization for their extreme level of professionalism, dedication, and really high achievement in certain areas throughout emergency services. It's my honor tonight to do that in front of you. We have a captain here who has been selected as one of 5 recipients in the nation for the 2023 Evora Leadership Development Foundation Scholarship. 5 only across the country. And so each awardee receives a total of $4,000, and this is a significant achievement for this captain. He is one of those folks in our organization that if you have a need and you ask him, he picks up the phone and he always says yes, which is also something we try to tell him every once in a while. You got to say no, Dan, because that's for your own good. He is not just a captain, he's also a training officer, and he also gets to be the program manager for our hazmat response team. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to bring up Captain Daniel Hoy, who is that recipient that Metro Fire is honored to have be in our membership, to talk all this cool stuff about himself, but also about a little bit more about what he does and the scholarship that he received. So Dan.
Wow. Thanks, Chief, for that introduction. That took like half of my stuff, so I won't take that long. Good evening, directors, President Gould, Fire Chief House, Madam Clerk, friends and colleagues, and citizens of the district. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. I'm honored. I'm humbled by the opportunity. For those that know me, I get a chance to talk in front of people. I say yes. So normally I'm talking about hazmat. I want to touch a little bit tonight on leadership. So as Chief Mitchell mentioned, I received a scholarship on behalf of the Evora Leadership Development Foundation. And what this is it's a foundation, obviously, for leadership and development. It's named in the memory of James Evora, who was a deputy chief back in Pennsylvania. And he was known throughout the nation for his leadership, mentorship, and just all around good ethics and moral compass qualities. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He was killed in the line of duty in 1988. So the foundation is named in his memory. Specifically, I received one of the 5 scholarships. Each scholarship is for a different discipline in the fire service. So mine is hazardous materials. So I'm the recipient of the Chief John M. Eversole Award for Hazardous Materials Responders. Chief Eversole was a stalwart in the hazardous materials community in the 90s, 80s, and before then. He advocated for hazardous materials preparedness for terrorism attacks, and this is well before 9/11. He testified in front of congressional committees at the federal level and really exemplified what servant leadership is with his self-sacrifice. And that's something that I've tried to embody in myself. In fact, Metro Fire's just had a ton of great leaders, and throughout my career here, I started in 2006, I've kind of latched onto each person just in the hope that I'd get a little bit of what was left over coming off of them and that I could inherit some of the qualities. So some of our current executive staff, as well as our past executive staff, and ranging from firefighter up to fire chief, have just influenced me profoundly, and I try to take little bits and pieces as I can to try to make myself a better public servant and as a better person. I'm a father. I have 4 wonderful, wonderful children. I have 2 teenage daughters that are getting ready for college, so that's always a struggle and a challenge, but it's been a real fun ride. A couple of the quotes that I like to look at when I think about leadership and embody the principles that I try to exemplify is Deputy Chief, now retired, Greg Casatini, used to say, be thankful when people bring you their problems because they know you care and they believe that they trust you. And I think that's important, both being present, letting them know that you care, and establishing that trust. A lot that I've learned about leadership is that it's based on relationships. So establishing relationships that are based on mutual respect and trust has become really important to me. I used to be a stare down at the goal and keep my head down and drive, and I didn't really, early in my career, focus and value those relationships. And really in the last couple of years, like coming to admin is like a vacation for me. I get to a lot of the people in the room, I come in, I walk in just completely unannounced, just start talking, see how they're doing, answer questions, find out what's going on, what's been happening. And that's really kind of the highlight of what I do, just a little piece. Another quote I'm going to take from Fire Chief Adam House. He said 2 things. Number 1, be present, which means you got to be here physically and mentally. And number 2, show your care. So I think both of those statements embody that servant leadership of how you put other people's needs above your own. And then the third principle that I try to embody is humility, because I think we can all agree being able to accept your own mistakes and accept constructive criticism just opens the doors to a lot of different things. So that's leadership in a nutshell. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the hazmat program a little bit. So normally, like I teach our new recruits in hazardous materials, I like to do demonstrations. I thought, given the setting, I didn't feel like setting off the sprinklers or smoke alarm tonight, so I'll kind of forego that for the future. But I would like to share a little bit about the team because this is my first opportunity to talk in front of you, go figure. So I might as well take the opportunity. So our team, in case it's been a while since you've thought about it or seen us around, we were developed in 2003. So it was a direction by then Fire Chief Rick Martinez that said, hey, we need a hazmat team. We cannot have long response times from other organizations to come and provide services when really hazardous materials is one of those incidents that potentially, although very low frequency, has potentially the greatest consequence or loss of life associated with it. So again, our team was formed based on that directive, primarily by our Fire Chief, Adam House. He had a lot of help as well. One of those members I like to recognize that helped in that is Battalion Chief Jason Bestel as well. So we still have members that were active in that process that are still here with us today and guiding our organization. We're a team in the station level of 2 units, an engine and a hazmat truck in Carmichael at Station 109. It's seven men and women, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But really, there's a quarter of our department, 150 members, that are trained to the hazardous materials specialist level. So we have a very large pool to draw from, and that means even though we don't have a hazmat team going out to a certain call, there's a good chance that there's at least one member that's trained to that level on a piece of apparatus, and that's a big deal. It's really comforting for me as a program manager to know that I have people out there with a higher level of training being able to assess and make decisions. Those 150 people have to undergo 6 weeks of training. That's 240 hours. That's a lot of training. In fact, the first week is called basic chemistry. Most of us look back at the first week, which we call A week. We like to call it a college chemistry course packed into 1 week. So you can imagine how intensive that is. Looking back, stressful, but now kind of fun because you get to play with things. Some of the things that we do in hazardous materials, obviously, we identify unknown substances, we respond to leaks, transportation accidents, and in Metro Fire's jurisdiction, we have a lot of risk. With Highway 50 and Interstate 80, we have a lot of businesses and manufacturing facilities that both manufacture or use hazardous materials. And once you put in the human factor with that, that's where we tend to see things kind of go off the rails, so to speak, pun intended. The other thing that we do is we provide a lot of guidance. We have a contract with the County of Sacramento to provide hazardous materials team services to the other cities in the County of Sacramento. So sometimes we do that through advisement over the radio or over the phone, or we might respond out there. So we serve the county as a whole and not just Metro Fire, though our focus is here. Before I wrap up here, a couple of the highlights about the team I want to tell you for achievements for the last couple of years. We've achieved of obtaining about $250,000 in grant funding for equipment. As you can imagine, hazardous materials response equipment is pretty techy, it's pretty state-of-the-art, and with that comes a pretty hefty price tag. So I'm happy to say that amount of grant funding is pretty impressive for me to see that go to work and actually give us the proper tools that are modern that we can continue carrying out the mission of Metro Fire. Probably the biggest hurdle we did, especially this last year, is we doubled the team from 55 to 110 members and instituted a very aggressive training program, which I'm here to say was very successful this last year. I was very happy with our members and the amount of information we delivered and the retention, and that we're getting really good value for the investment in our team. So that's all I have to say. I thank you for your time, and I'm willing to take any questions.
Captain, thank you. Any questions? Captain, next time, I sure hope you show up with a little bit more passion.
Okay.
You got to bring your A game, dude.
I got to give Chris Kellogg a run for his money.
Yeah, it was so bland. Anyway, thank you very much and congratulations on your scholarship. That's
Thank you.
quite an outstanding. What are you doing in April when we go to DC? We got to take we got to take somebody that's
Take the hazmat guy?
smart. Take the hazmat guy. Talk to your chief. Thank you for bringing him.
My pleasure. Well, that's an easy one. Dan's one of the ones, like I said, that give him an opportunity and he'll put forth a great effort and does exactly that in anything that he does. So it's really a nice recognition to get, but well-deserved, so.
If I could acknowledge real quick, we talk about the great men and women we have in this organization, and they all are. Oftentimes, we also say we have some one-percenters. Dan is one of those one-percenters. When we look at our core values, he bleeds and lives our core values. And Dan, I couldn't be more proud of you from a friendship, but from working with you over the years. You represent Metro Fire extremely well. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Nicely done, Chief.
Excellent. Okay, so one more now. It's my pleasure now to bring up Shift Commander Kylie Keeley to provide you all tonight with this meeting's, where's he at? There he is, he's behind the pole. Shift Commander Spotlight, Chief Keeley.
President Gould, members of the board, Fire Chief House, friends and colleagues, members of the public. Kylie Keeley, B Shift Commander. For starting about a week ago, myself and the other two shift commanders were approached by the Secret Service via phone calls and email to set up resources that were going to be allocated and dedicated to the vice presidential visit to the Sacramento region. We had a lot of members involved. The visit crossed boundaries between Sacramento City and Sacramento Metro's fire district. So there was a collaboration between Sac City's resources and ours. Resources that were dedicated were engines, medics, hazmat resources, heavy rescues, an entire fire station for a fallback area. And so before I bring up the crew that was dedicated today in the motorcade, I wanted to recognize members that aren't here. We had Medic 65's crew members, Alex Fitchett, firefighter paramedic Alex Fitchett, and firefighter paramedic Josh House. We had an embedded Thames member, Captain Tim White. We had a fire station, Station 110, that was dedicated as a fallback area for the vice president in case they had to get to a safe refuge area. At Station 110 was the crew of Station 110, the crew of Hazmat 109, and the crew of Rescue 21 for any eventuality that may arise. So, come on up. Engine 54's crew with Captain Mike Bonham, Engineer Ryan Wolf, and firefighter Peter Jaquez. They were dedicated today to the vice presidential motorcade. They've been out of their firehouse since about 8:30-ish. And have been following the vice president around all day. So I wanted to bring them up and let them give you their firsthand details and account of their experience today.
Thank you, Chief. Again, Captain Mike Bonham, thank you very much for having us. We're happy to be here. We got this told last night that we're going to be in the motorcade tomorrow. I have no experience of being in a motorcade, and so, which was great to fall back on people that have. Firefighter Jaquez has been in many motorcades in Afghanistan, so we were able to fall back on his expertise, and probably a lot different than motorcades you've experienced in the past, just a little bit. So it's always good to fall back on your team with the experience that you might not have. Also, too, being able to watch Engineer Wolf drive in a motorcade where everybody, when you're governed at 58 miles an hour in a fire engine, with 750 gallons of water. As the first person stops in the motorcade, it domino effects, and he's white-knuckling, making sure that nothing happens to that fire engine or that we're not the one that has damage in that presidential motorcade. So strong work to both of them. They did fantastic. We got to, starting off, I'm just going to tell you about our day, the process and everything. We showed up to the Sacramento International Airport at approximately 9:45. We were supposed to report there at 10 a.m. We were able to meet with BC-22, which was Scott Lewis, who we know pretty well. We were also able to see Director Wood's brother, Jack. We were able to talk to him and share some stories. So he says hello. After that, we reported to the tarmac where our engine was swept and checked for, I guess, bombs and whatever else might cause the president, vice president harm. From there, we got on the TAC channel, and we were the only fire engine in the motorcade out of the whole area to be involved in that, which was pretty cool and a unique situation that we may never experience again in our career. So it was fantastic. We were in charge of fire, decon, and medical, along with, just like Chief Keeley said about Medic 65 and Tim White with the Thames team. Medic 65 was in charge of, they were going to be the ambulance and the medic if Vice President Harris ended up having a medical problem, they were going to be the transport. The other medic that was there was Medic 18 from Sac City, and they were going to be the transporters of the motorcade if they had a accident or any kind of medical. From there, we followed we counted 24 unit motorcade with Vice President Harris. She was about fourth in the motorcade. We were about 20th, but they wanted us back there, so in case they needed to flush units, it's easier to come up than fall back. So we followed all throughout the day. I believe, Chief, we had lunch, was it the governor's building, Governor's Mansion, where we staged out there with, and stood by where we got to talk and intervene with the Secret Service and kind of get to know some ins and outs of how this whole process works, what their life is like. Very, very respectful people, very questions about our careers, questions about their careers. It was a good experience for all to kind of know how that whole process works and what they go through on a pretty much daily, weekly basis as these presidents and travel the world essentially. From there, we stayed in the motorcade and traveled to a house within 110's district, staged there for a little bit. We actually got to use the restroom finally at 3 o'clock. So just like one of the Secret Service gentlemen told us, he said, I always slightly dehydrate myself a couple days before because I don't want it. Well, we didn't do that because being rookies, we showed up with full cups of coffee at 10 o'clock, drinking, as these guys are probably looking at these idiots. So yeah, so we got to use the restroom finally at 3 o'clock, which was fantastic. So after that, we stayed in line with everybody and everything went according to plan. I feel like these gentlemen and we represented Metro Fire extremely well, and proud we got an opportunity to do it. So thank you very much. And do you guys want to share anything or share any of your experiences? Come on up.
You did good. Thank you. Excellent, Captain. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Chief Mitchell, Chief Kiley, who's going to take the back to you?
Yeah, back to me,
All right.
right? So they also didn't get to eat until they got here to headquarters for this, so they didn't mention that either. And so I just would like to say so it's not, this is not our first time in dealing with the Secret Service. We've had multiple, interactions with them in the past based off of visits, and it's typically like this, that it's very secretive, and then the night before they find out. But I would just like to say thank you to you gentlemen on Engine 54 and also to Chief Keeley and everybody else that was involved. Again, I'm going to toot our own horn. We step up to the plate when we need it, and we do a fantastic job. And they did a fantastic job representing us today and the highest levels of professionalism that we can all be proud of. And I had about that much interaction on this one, and they knocked it out of the park, which makes me very proud. So, and with that, I'll conclude the operations report unless there's any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much for all of you that were involved, and it's nice to hear that we need to dehydrate and pack lunch when these things happen again. Very good. Thank you very much for that. I believe next up is the administrative report, and I'm assuming that Chief, Ty Bailey's up,
The tough one to follow right there.
right?
Good evening, Board of Directors, Board Chair, Chief House, colleagues, and members of the public. Ty Bailey, Deputy Chief of the Administration, with a brief update. Community relations, the fire scene newsletter came out several weeks ago. If you have anything that you want to be added to that, please contact Brenda Briggs or April West. The yearbook is currently in process. That was completed in 2023. It's 4 to 6 weeks out from being published and out to the members. And like Chief House stated, the next station dedication is scheduled for Wednesday, February 21st. Moving on to finance. Finance was pleased to learn that 2 staff members were recognized and will be recognized at the annual awards gala. Zelma Houston received a peer recognition award, and Procurement Officer Courtney Moore was honored with the Professional Staff Member of the Year. So congratulations to them. Finance Division has begun working through the mid-year budget and anticipates bringing it to the Finance and Audit Committee on February 22nd, and it'll come to the board March 14th. And then earlier this month, CFO O'Toole was appointed as the new chair of the Sacramento Valley chapter of Society of Municipal Finance Officers. This membership organization for local agency public finance professionals and their industrial partners. I think I might have nominated him at one of our events. Thanks to Tim White for helping out with all of our recruitment and outreach, and his team and many of the volunteers that assist him. The Explorer season has begun for the Explorer program, and station placement will be announced very soon. Human resources, operations, data analyst interviews have been completed and will be announced soon. EMS technicians recruitment closes on February 9th. And then as Chief House stated, the paramedic recruitment has been announced as well as the engineer promotion opportunity coming up. In backgrounds, we have 2 office technicians that are currently in backgrounds. Fire mechanic, estimated completion of background will be next month, 2024. And then we have 51 EMT and paramedics that are almost completed with their backgrounds, preparing for the 24-1 MMP Academy. And of those, we have 2 that have their paramedic license. We have 9 that are currently in some type of process of becoming paramedics, and then the rest are EMTs. So that is the end of my report, unless you have any questions this evening.
Any questions for Chief Bailey? Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Chief Wagaman, you're up. Support Services Report.
Thank you, and good evening, President Gould, directors, Chief House, staff, and all the people that employ us, our public. Tyler Wagaman, Deputy Chief Support Services, with a short support report tonight. First off, regarding the presidential motorcade, as you're watching the news tonight and you're seeing little blurps on the news, don't forget to admire our beautiful Engine 54. It is brand new and it is stunning. So hopefully that is in the backdrop of every single shot that you see on every news channel this evening. A shout out to Facilities for Starters. On Sunday evening, again, their day off, they received a call in the evening hours. Station 25, water was coming into the station from an adjacent lot after a pretty significant downpour. It was a pretty rainy evening, if you all recall. And our staff immediately stopped watching the 49er game, upholding the core values of our organization and devotion to duty. Showed up and went to work, diverting water from the adjacent lot, getting it around the station to prevent any further damage, water extractors, you name it. And I got there pretty quick, and I would say over half the work was already done by the time that I arrived. So once again, very beneficial to have a special district and have our own team of folks solving these little issues that pop up day in and day out. It also saves us an enormous amount of money for those of you that ever utilized a company to come out to do those types of services. It's very, very costly, especially after hours. So I commend them for that. In addition, they swapped out lighting in the apparatus bay at Station 114 as well as Station 54 kitchen with LED lights, so Title 24 compliance. They also received an after-hours call of a high-temp alarm at our logistics building in our server room. As you know, that we have satellite server rooms throughout the district for all of our facilities, including our fire stations. And the server equipment's very expensive, and it doesn't like heat. So we have alarms in the event that we have a AC failure, and they received that during the overnight hours, and facilities deployed a resource there, found the AC unit did die, and they were able to get it up and operational before it impacted the server system, again, saving us money. In addition, they commercially cleaned some carpets over at our fire investigations building over at the 3000 Fulton Avenue. With that, I'll move over to Fleet. The fleet manager, as well as one of our mechanics and myself, will be heading out next week to Boise Mobile to see the status, check the status of 4 of our Type 5 fire engines that are nearing completion. We hope to get those here in the state of California and in our hands here very soon in preparation for our upcoming wildland season. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the mic over to Chief Nygren. Unfortunately, Chief Law had to step out this evening, but she's going to be a great person to fill in for Chief Law and talk about a few highlights that's occurring within our community risk reduction. Chief Nygren.
Thank you, Chief Wagaman. I will make it quick, I promise. First off, CRD continues to be an active member of the Fireworks Task Force, and last week, Chief Law attended a meeting specifically focused on proposed changes to the county ordinance. CRD is also in the process of scheduling meetings. Chief Law and I are going to meet with the superintendents of each of the public schools to make sure they're aware of the new fee schedule changes that'll take effect on January 1st, as well as some focused discussions on fire and life safety education, particularly involving teen vaping at schools that are affecting false alarms that we're having. The last time I'm going to kind of read a little story about an incident that occurred last week, and it's a great story. On Saturday, June 20th, 2024, crews were dispatched to an apartment fire on Marconi Avenue. Crews arrived to heavy fire affecting several first-floor units, extending up to the second floor. 2 victims were treated and one was transported. In a proactive approach, last year, members of the CRD team conducted a smoke alarm blitz at that apartment complex. And that was in conjunction with a joint task force inspection for ongoing issues related to vacant and boarded up units. The team installed 38 smoke alarms in 20 units. 2 alarms were installed in the transported victims unit, and 2 were installed in the main fire unit. The transported victims were alerted to the fire by the smoke alarms that were installed. This canvas potentially saved a number of lives and provided early evacuation warnings. So we're very proud of that proactive approach that our team provided for this apartment complex. With that, end of report.
So that concludes the support services report, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We'll move on. I've scanned the, okay, there we are. Local 522 report. Certainly not Sean.
Certainly not Sean. Little taller than Sean. Good evening, President Gould, other board members, Chief House, other members of the public. Thanks for having me tonight. I'm going to continue with a short and sweet report from 522. Not a lot of things to report out other than some organizational, structural things inside of 522. Last Wednesday, Sean Scholar was officially sworn in as the vice president, so along with other e-board members of the union, which opened up a director position to take his place as a director. Mike Gildone was voted and elected to take that director role, so congratulations to Mike. He was one of our deputy directors. He was currently working with Chief Mitchell in operations, so he'll continue that role as his director position to work with Chief Mitchell in operations. I have taken over Sean's role in my term as a director. Sean was all of admin and HR, working closely with Chief Bailey, and I am currently in a day's position, getting up to speed and quickly learning that is in itself truly a full-time job in its own. So I'm getting up to speed on that. And then that opened up for that deputy director position, which Mike Gildone vacated, so we have nominations out for that. That'll come shortly. The only other thing that is moving forward, and thank you for your continued support, board, with the health and wellness of our members. We're really moving forward with our health and wellness project, working closely with our peer support team, Jeff Wells and Ryan Manfredi, and moving towards a futuristic goal of having a health and wellness center. We are going to visit Phoenix in February, and they have a pretty successful health and wellness center that has currently been functioning since 1987. So a few of us from the union are going to go visit the Phoenix's Health and Wellness Center, get a little bit more education on how theirs works, how they started, the pitfalls and challenges, and all of how that came to what it is today, and hopefully have a very successful health and wellness center of our own here in Sacramento, which does not currently exist. So thank you for your continued support in that project and keeping our members mentally and physically healthy, and hopefully move forward in that direction to have a very similar program that Phoenix has. So, but that concludes my report, unless you have any other questions.
I just didn't catch your rank and name.
Captain Pete Votava.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate
you.
that. We'll move on to committee and delegate reports. The executive committee has not met. We'll move on to let's see, Comm Center JPA. AC Green is not in the room, right?
Yeah, he said no report this
And
evening.
he has no report. Good. Thank you very much. We'll move on to Finance and Audit Committee. I believe, who's going to go?
I chaired it.
Director Dell.
Yeah. The Finance and Audit Committee met today at 5:15. We conducted our election of officers. We had Director Jones has been assigned the chair and the vice chair. She wasn't here.
That's strong work right there, my colleagues. That's strong work. Yeah, that's great. Director Jones, congratulations.
and Director Weber is the vice chair. We had then we also had a report from CFO O'Toole. We did the bi-monthly fiscal report, and the takeaways were in October 31st, general fund cash was 25.8 million higher than prior year. Overall general fund revenue was off to a slow start, but it's 3.3 million less than the final budget forecast. It'd be all right. And then we had the monthly PPG EMT revenues increasing, but still a $3 million short for fiscal year 2022 and 23, and 4.6 million short after 4 months of fiscal year 2023-24. And finally, the general fund expenditures were $17.4 million lower than our final budget. We also had a great report by a fraud and risk assessment program. It was presented by Ron M. Pedrada, our controller. This is a great program. I mean, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but it's comprehensive, and it's just a great program. It's actually trend setting. I don't think any other, well, as Ron said, there was maybe one other district that had this kind of program. Wow. And it's cutting edge again. There once again, Metro Fire is in the forefront and ahead of everybody else on issues of that type. So that's all. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. We'll move on. Director Costa, your policy committee.
Thank you, sir. No report. Our next meeting is February 8th.
Okay, let's stay in that area. Let's go right back to you for board member questions and comments.
Thank you. No questions or comments.
Ooh, that's pressure. Director Weber.
I also have no comments, but thank you.
I see a theme going on, Director Sheets.
No, I'm going to say something.
He's gonna break.
Niger, thank you so much for the presentation. Incredible work that your team is doing. It just goes to show what an amazing company that we have and that we support our public service. So thank you for that. Also wanted to congratulate you, Captain.
Daniel.
Dan, I know his first name's Dan, I just
Boy.
don't know the last, but
Boy.
amazing work. And thank you for highlighting hazmat. It's really important that you had mentioned how much time and effort, 240 hours, 6-week program, but the continued education to make sure that the members are continuing to, learn all of the new things that are out there. So really proud of the work that our hazmat team does. There was one other thing I was going to say, and I didn't write it down.
We can come back to you.
Chief Kylie.
Yeah.
Kylie Keeley. Thank you
Goes
for
either way.
thank you for recognizing the crews and just as I was listening to it, thinking the captain had said this is a once probably in her career opportunity. It just is every time I think that I couldn't be more proud to work for an organization, then I hear stories like that and think, I mean, it's amazing. So thank you for that. That's all.
Thank you.
I conclude.
Okay, thank you. Director Clark?
Yes. Congratulations also to Captain Hoy for his scholarship and his leadership with the hazmat. Great presentations. Thank you. And Well, I know with the chief's leadership, we're going to continue having presentations where, you know, we get crews come up and, you know, and show, present themselves, and we get familiarized with them. I was out at the airport too, and I ran into Tim White today with the vice president's thing, and I'm so proud of Metro because, yeah, we were out there in force. So, and of course the chief, yeah, he also was. He had the meeting with all the big cheeses.
I had lunch on time.
You just call the fire chief a cheese?
Yeah, he's a big cheese.
Can't help you. Can't help you.
Yeah, no, that's a saying. So anyway, great meeting, great presentations. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you, Director Clark. Director Wood?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'll just echo what was said earlier, and I just have one point, because I won't get to make it again. Fill the boot for Burns for the Burn Institute, February 9, 10, and 11 at Sunrise. If you haven't got the link, get it so we can make sure that trophy comes back to us from Consumnes. And also, the Burn Institute, it does need firefighter and civilian volunteers, so reach out and get out and help in that capacity as well if you can. So thank you. End of comment.
Thank you, Director Wood. We're so grateful that you've taken that passion and done such a great job with that. Tonight we heard somebody say that they came to the administration for a vacation, and I think he meant to say a working vacation, because our executive team here on the headquarters does an amazing job, as evidenced by the presentations tonight. They're just top notch, and it's so wonderful to get to know the different elements and the different people in our organization. That's something that's relatively new for us as board members, and I think it's one of the highlights of what we do here, to get to know and recognize the men and women who every day, I think, bust their tails in every way, which is what we heard tonight. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. It's now 7:10. That means that you should go home and spend quality time with your family. This meeting's adjourned.
Recording stopped.